episode of the Two Shots podcast. I'm your host, Joe Garcia, and we're going to be joined by our good friend here, Benjamin Bornstein of Project Spurs. So, we're going to have what we call a Spurs intervention today. And that means that we're going to be talking about what's going on with the team, and we're going to listen to some of these recorded messages that our viewers have sent us in. They're actually pre-recorded messages. You can leave us a pre-recorded message anytime you want by going to anchor.fm, and I'm going to be sharing that special link right after today's broadcast on our social media outlets, including Twitter. So you can go ahead and click on that and leave us your hot takes or just talk to us, about the team, and we'll be glad to play the best ones on a future show. So with that said, Ben, the state of the team, it's in dire straits right now. Spurs Nation is looking for someone to blame. We've had people come out the day after or even during the game, blaming Coach Pop and for his, blaming him and his refusal to play the younger players and playing the same old tired lineups that really don't get us the productivity that we need. We can all see what's happening out there on the court when you put one LMA and you put another, Bryn Forbes and Marco Beninelli on the court together. That's a disaster waiting to happen, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened during this Houston Rockets game. But more importantly, beyond that, we need to find out, and dive deeper in here. Who's to blame? What's going on? Let's get your take on this whole matter, Ben.
There are probably a lot of people who can be blamed for how this season has started.
It's not just Coach Pop's fault?
No, surprisingly, no. Here's the thing. Yes, Popovich and the coaching staff are using some very odd lineups and rotations that don't seem to make sense to any of us. And, you can come out and you can say, oh, well, Pop knows best. He's been doing this for 2+ decades. He should get the benefit of the doubt. Fine, whatever. You can say that. It's also fine if you're one of those people who says, listen, sometimes you have to challenge authority here, and you have to really figure out what it is that works. And this is not one of those things that's working. You have to question Pop, and you have to say, listen, we need something else. If you're one of those people, that's fine too. That's a perfectly logical and reasonable stance to have. Now, I think it falls somewhere in the middle of those two where, Pop may know something we don't, but also, the numbers don't lie, and in certain lineups don't work. Marco Bellinelli playing lots of minutes doesn't work.
More than 10 minutes a game is way too much. Even 3 minutes a game. He needs to see 0 minutes. How about that?
Well, that would be our preference now, wouldn't it? But, I would argue that there are certain situations, there are certain games where maybe you need Marco Bellinelli to even just act as a decoy. If you're looking for if you need a 3 on a last-minute play and you need shooters on the floor, Marco Bellinelli will be on the floor for you because he is a shooter.
Or we need someone to foul somebody in a crunch time situation.
There you go. You don't want to waste fouls on people you actually need or people who can actually play defense. So that's another reason why Marco Bellinelli might be in. But other than that, yeah, he probably shouldn't see the floor a whole lot. But there are other guys that you're wondering, like, why aren't they seeing the floor as much? Why is Jakob Poeltl not seeing 20+ minutes a game? That doesn't make sense to me. You're leaving Lamar Aldridge out with other lineups that don't help him defensively and then expect him to be a decent defensive player when he hasn't been all season, whereas that is Jakob Poeltl's calling card. His nickname is Blockab Poeltl.
Blockab Poeltl for a reason.
You don't get that nickname by being bad on defense.
Yeah.
That's right, unless you're known for committing a lot of blocking fouls. But that in that case, that'd just be a terrible nickname. But the load management or the minutes management for some players just doesn't make sense. It's off. And some of it is just that these players should be playing a lot of these minutes, but they just have to be better. Like Bryn Forbes can't be streaky. He has to come out and he has to be able to shoot every night. That's what you're on the floor for. You're not on the floor for your defense. You're not on the floor to run an offense. You're on the floor to space it and shoot the ball and make 3-point shots in the occasional mid-range. But for the most part, make 3-point shots, which he hasn't done consistently this season.
But he's mediocre on defense. He's a defensive liability out there. So if his shot's not falling down, you need to get him out of the game. He's
Well,
lost his usefulness, pretty
that's
much.
that's part of why Marco Bellinelli shouldn't be playing any minutes. He's even
Yep.
worse on defense and has been even streakier. So, there's a lot of blame to go around. Some of it is yes, the lineups and rotations are garbage. Some of it is yes, the players are not playing the way that we know they can play. They're not playing up to their par of shooting excellence, ball handling excellence, whatever it may be. They're not like a Bryn Forbes has not played very well this season. Patty Mills has actually played really well this season,
He's been more
and I would
clutch than DeMar DeRozan has.
he's been more clutch than DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan has absolutely melted down in clutch situations this season, and I saw a great stat. It came out before the Houston Rockets game, so I don't know if it changed, but basically, DeMar DeRozan, who was a plus 80% free throw shooter in his career, shoots 45% from the free throw line in clutch time situations, which is basically when the score of the game is within 5 in the last 5 minutes.
In other
And
words,
so
AKA he's pure ass in crunch time
he's
situation.
crunch time situations cannot be trusted.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
if you can't trust him and you can't trust LaMarcus Aldridge, who has been very hit or miss this season, and a lot of it is he doesn't give effort, he doesn't show the heart that he needs to show. Some of it is he has bad matchups, and if that's the case, take him out of the game. Let Jakob Poeltl go in there and figure out the matchup, which I don't think the Spurs have done a lot of this season. They just haven't figured out matchups when they just say, oh, well, this is a matchup that's getting us beat. We don't really care. We're just going to keep playing through it, and maybe it'll correct itself. That's not how those
Yeah.
work. If Clint Capella had 15 and 15 for the Rockets when they came back and beat the Spurs, that shouldn't happen. You know exactly what Clint Capella does. He is a rim runner, and he rebounds the ball and gets the Rockets extra possessions. There should be a body on that man at all times. And
Interesting
LaMarcus
stat:
Aldridge wasn't doing.
The Spurs actually shot more three pointers than the Rockets and connected on more three pointers. So you would think, like Wesley had pointed out, that would be a victory, but unfortunately, it was not because the Rockets out rebounded us, and they handed us our asses inside the paint. We had bigger guys. That means they weren't playing defense.
The other issue was the Spurs turned the ball over way too much. They had a 15.3% turnover percentage, which basically means you're turning the ball over 15 out of every 100 possessions, and that's unacceptable for an NBA team. They finished with 18 turnovers. That will lose you a game every single time.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention they allowed Houston to have almost 25% offensive rebounding percentage. They had 23.7. That means they are getting an offensive rebound on almost a quarter of their missed shots. That is wild. That number is way too big. That's the kind of stuff that scares me and should scare other Spurs fans, because LaMarcus Aldridge is not the solution to that problem. And Jakob Poeltl, while he is a good rebounder, is not enough of a solution to that problem. He needs help too. So I
Maybe
think
Trey
that's
Lyles.
Trey Lyles has to get in there a little bit. So again, you have to figure out the lineups. You have to figure out, okay, can I play Trey Lyles with Poeltl? Can I play Trey Lyles with Aldridge? Can I play him with whoever else? What's going to be a lineup that is going to rebound the ball well for us, or even just mediocre, so that we don't get killed on the offensive boards?
Talking about getting killed, what's been going on with Rudy Gay lately? For our eyes, it's like he's aged 5 years or even more. I don't know what's happened since the beginning of the year to what's transpired now. It's like, come on now, man. I mean, we need more of an effort out of him. And it seems like he's just been on the decline. I don't know what the situation is, or maybe he's injured, but something's going on there.
I think with Rudy Gay is an interesting case, because in that Houston game, he actually finished with 12 and 12. He had a double-double.
Yeah.
But he shot 4 of 9, which is fine. That's an acceptable shooting percentage. But the issue is a lot of times, like, sometimes he just looks lethargic out there. Sometimes, like,
Yeah.
he comes out and he's got great energy. You're
It's
not
up and
really,
down.
yeah, it's up and down. And I don't know if some of that is still from his injury. This is his age 33 season.
Yeah.
Some of it may be he needs load management. Perhaps there are some games he can't play 30 plus minutes, or he can't play 25 plus minutes.
I
You have
think
to.
you hit the nail on the head. He shouldn't be playing 30 plus minutes. He is a good, I think, role player, but he shouldn't be out there for extended stretches because he just can't do that anymore.
He did, and it sucks because I loved him when he was with the Kings and he was doing that stuff, and he was basically the only player worth watching on that team. And now, he desperately. I feel like he very desperately wants to be that guy again, but it's just not going to happen for him. He's he's going to make some nice ooh and ah plays here and there, but he's not going to be a guy night in and night out who's got 3 or 4 plays in a game. We're just like, oh dang, that is vintage Rudy Gay. That's the
Yeah.
good. You're just not going to get that out of him.
Yeah, not at this stage in his career. He's kind of on the decline a little bit. He's getting up there in age, and it happens. You can't beat Father Time. Ask Tim Duncan. He tried and he did his best impersonation for many years, but unfortunately his niece just didn't agree with him anymore. So he knew it was time to call it quits after a great historic career. And I think Rudy Gay and LaMarcus Aldridge are getting up there in age, and it's kind of showing. Especially, I think, more so with LaMarcus this season. I think Father Time has caught up with him, and we've seen his game decline big time. It's not what it once was, even last season. So, with that said, I think one of the big issues is we've seen when he's inserted into games, what happens? The team slows down. Everything slows down. Defense, offense. He's just a pariah out there, I think. He's an enigma on this team, and he needs to be removed from the situation. Maybe he can be maybe he can still be productive, but he can be productive in limited minutes. I don't think he no longer has earned the starting position. I think that needs to be given to somebody else now. We need more of an effort. Even if it's not on the offensive end, we need somebody to put forth the effort defensively, because the Spurs system works when the team plays defense, and we have yet to see them do that on a consistent basis. They can do that like they did in the first half against Houston. They look good both defensively and from an offensive perspective. But in the second half, they just came and laid an egg. They didn't play the same type of defense as they once did in the first half. That intensity was not there, neither was the effort, and that was about all she wrote. And they left LMA in there for extended stretches of time. We hardly saw any Jakob Poeltl up there. Lonnie Walker, he got punched in the face, and they didn't. You got to scratch your head and say, why? He's one of your better players. He's the fastest player on the team, and he's dangerous in the open court. Even though he might not give you, 30 or 40 points a night, Lonnie Walker is the future of this team, along with some of the other younger guys. They need to get some playing time, and I think Lonnie's ready right now to contribute to the team. So why is he sitting on the bench and they put in Marco? We all don't know. That's been one of the enigmas, that we're trying to figure out, Ben. I don't understand that, and I'm sure you don't either.
No. Well, the biggest issue is they went out and yes, he was a last minute addition, but they went out and they signed Damari Carroll. Use him.
He's good
Use his talent.
defensively.
He's a very good defender. He can guard multiple positions. He's a decent enough rebounder. Just why is he not getting more minutes? That's
And he
that's
can
the
shoot
thing
a
that
three.
drives me
He can knock
nuts.
down an open three here and there.
Yes,
You
he
know?
is your quintessential 3-and-D guy.
Yeah. So why is he sitting on the bench? Or, as like we got in this last game against Houston, DNP, coach's decision, did not play. Shizeme Metu, the DNP, did not play. Coach's decision. Oh man, that's just asinine to us as Spurs fans. We're in this rebuilding stage that we're not used to, because Spurs fans are used to this team coming out and performing and not losing in the fashions that they have as of late. We question the effort on any given night, but even when they lose, as long as they had put forth the effort, I think Spurs fans would still find something to cheer about. The only thing that we can cheer about this season is we have some young guys that are actually showing some promise in a Jakob Poeltl, in one Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray, Derek White. We're seeing the younger players out there, and we like to see them. They're young, they're exciting. The game moves faster when they're all playing out there together. And then you insert LaMarcus, and everything slows down. I guess they're playing at half speed. I guess when they put LaMarcus in the game, so it's like everybody else is playing at full speed except for us because we have LMA. You know,
Joe, you know what's really funny to me? So as it stands now, the Spurs play at the 12th fastest pace in the league.
maybe when LMA's not in the game.
No, that is average
Average,
over the
okay.
course of their games, whatever. That's their pace is 101.1, and that's 12th in the league. Now, imagine if they did play the majority of games without LaMarcus Aldridge,
Ooh,
what that pace might be.
could be 8, maybe 7.
Exactly. So, and a lot of it is if you're going to play the young guys, they're going to make mistakes. You're going to live with that.
Yep.
That is the philosophy. If you're going to allow a lot of your young guys to play at the same time for extended minutes, you're going to say, okay, we're going to live with the mistakes, but we're going to let them get up and down the court. We're going to let them try and get out into the open court as much as possible, try and get as many transition buckets as possible, because those are the easiest buckets we have. Those are the easiest buckets available to us. Hard to make mistakes on those.
Yep.
So I think it's going to come down to, at what point do they say, all right, we're going to let all these young guys get all these minutes. We're going to scale back our veterans, and we're going to see what these young guys will do for us, how they help us. Maybe they get us off to better starts in games, and maybe they play extended minutes in the first quarter rather than guys coming out at the 8 or 10 minute mark. They play an entire first quarter. They play like 2 minutes into the second quarter, and then you bring your veterans in to close out the half. Bring those other guys back in the beginning of the second half. Try and get them out to a jump start again, and then you kind of bring your veterans in those moments where you need that leadership, where a game might be getting out of hand, a game might be a team might be kind of clawing back, like we saw with the Rockets. Maybe
Yep.
that's when you put your vets back in and say, listen, I need you to calm these young guys down. Don't get them completely out of their game, but I need you to calm them down and get us into the sets that we need to run in order to score and in order to be successful.
Yeah, because they got away from using the younger players that were so prolific in the first half and actually were able to get the lead and able to sustain the lead and keep up with the likes of James Harden and, Russell Westbrook, because we had our young guards guarding them and they were wreaking havoc on them. They were keeping them in check for pretty much the first half, and then they got away from what was working, and we saw the result. When you insert the veterans, you start off the third quarter with them, and what was once a lead all but dwindles. So let's go ahead and hear what some of our fans have had to say. As I promised, some of the fans have left us some voice messages. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this voice message from Jesse, and we're going to let him give us his take on the state of the Spurs right now. So let's take a listen.
Why are we the only team in the NBA that has first round draft picks and doesn't play him? Come on, Pop. We need to get it together.
All right, well, Jesse says, why are we the only team in the NBA that has first round draft picks and doesn't play them? I think what he's meaning by that is we have these draft picks, and I'm pretty sure he's talking about the young guns. He's talking about Luca, Quindary, Keldon Johnson, and why we're not playing them. Coach Pop doesn't notoriously play rookies, with the exception being one, Kawhi Leonard, and two, Tony Parker. So we have that. So the young guns are over in the G League. But he does bring up a good topic of discussion. If the Spurs are not getting any better, maybe it's time for us to start playing these young guys and just let them ball out. What do we have to lose? If we're going to still lose with the veterans starting, why not see what we have in these young guys and let them get some running, let them get some extended minutes out there.
Well, that sounds great in theory. The issue with that in practice is, what if Luca and what if Keldon Johnson and what if Quindary Weatherspoon are not ready to play in NBA games?
You have
And
that.
yeah, I understand. At some point, yes, they're going. If you want them to be part of your team and you want them to play meaningful minutes, we're going to have to play in an NBA game. But there are guys who play really well in the G League and they try and make the jump to the big leagues, and it does not pan out. So I think part of the reason that those guys have not been called up and actually played is because one, Popovich has too many guys on the roster right now anyway, and two, if Chimezi Metu is getting called up and not playing, there's no way those guys are getting called up and playing because Metu is probably the most ready of any of those guys
Yeah.
right now. He spent a ton of time in the G League last year. He just competed for his country in FIBA over the summer. He's got a ton of confidence right now. He's playing really well in the G League too. So, if that's a guy who can't crack rotation minutes, then to think that those other guys will is a bit of a stretch as well.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and hear a voice message from our second viewer here. I believe this gentleman's name is Alfred Romero. So we're going to go ahead and hear what Alfred Romero had to say in regards to the state of the San Antonio Spurs at this exact point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and play this audio clip for us. Give me a minute to load it up.
So my concern about the current state of the team of the Spurs, I just want to know or understand why it is that Pop isn't playing. The younger guys like Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker. I mean, you've seen a little bit with Lonnie Walker how he's played him, but I think he needs to find some. I'm sure some of these guys want to play and show that they have what it takes because there's guys like Brent Forbes, Marco Bellinelli, just to name those two that are bad on defense. I'd rather see a Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, at least give them some minutes so they can develop as well. Um, because I kind of feel like they have the potential to actually give that spark that the Spurs need.
All right, so there you have it. Just
Hmm.
basically just what we talked about. There's a reason why they're not playing these younger players. And as you had just alluded to, now we know the answer because maybe, in fact, they're just not ready for NBA prime time just yet. They still need to develop their skills and hone their skills over in the G League, and they need to get the fundamentals down before they can go ahead and compete at the NBA level. So even though we'd love for that scenario to take place and they just go ahead and let all the young players play and ball out the rest of the season, you know realistically that's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream, and I'm just speaking from the fan perspective. So you already went ahead and answered that question. So let's go ahead and take another listen to another viewer that we had here. His name is Zaib Merchant, and we're going to listen to what he had to say in regards to the state of the team.
If I'm the Spurs and Greg Popovich, I would just trade LaMarcus Aldridge and just build a team around DeMar DeRozan. And then also get rid of DeMar Carroll, which he hasn't been nothing but just coming off the bench and just runs around. Instead, we just give up a chance for nothing. And then look for someone of a better defender and a better shooter than DeMar Carroll because he's not actually living up to expectations. Yeah, I would just get rid of LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar Carroll. Probably just try to implement another play style.
Okay, well, there you have it there. We heard from what he had to say. And I don't think Damari Carroll is the issue. The issue
No.
is he's not being played. Getting rid of LMA, while it's a high on the wish list for most Spurs fans, realistically, that's probably not going to happen. What we can only hope for, Spurs Nation, is that we're not going to get into another obscene contract. We already saw what happened when we gave one Paul Gasol an extension. That was horrible. That should have never occurred. So hopefully the Spurs have seen the light and they do not offer a contract extension to one LaMarcus Aldridge or to another aging former All-Star in DeMar DeRozan. I think that they need to let both these guys walk and they need to decide what they're going to do. I mean, the youth movement is here and there's no getting away from it. It's here in front of us, and we've seen that some of these players are promising. So if we can't get a big name free agent, let's just go with what we got and let these guys walk, and hopefully we can get something in free agency, maybe not this next season, but the following season. I mean, what are your thoughts, Ben?
Definitely. I mean, just like you said, there's the LaMarcus Aldridge trade is on everyone's wish list. If that's one thing they want happening during Christmas, that's it. If Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, if all of a sudden we get a Woj bomb, LaMarcus Aldridge trades in talks, whatever, heating up, all this stuff.
I'm opening the bottle of
That would-
champagne.
Oh yeah, yeah. Opening the bottle of champagne, everyone's breaking out their best bourbon, their best whiskey, you name it. It's going down.
We're going
But
honking downtown.
so I mean, again, I don't know if that happens, but I would agree with you that DeMarre Carroll is not the issue at all. He's just you can't make an impact if you don't get played.
Exactly. So
So, that's part of the issue, and then it's just so difficult. He mentioned it briefly, but to say like change the play style, like you have no idea how hard that is to do in the middle of a season
yep.
to change your style of play after you spent a preseason working on it. You spent this season working on those things. It is so difficult to just up and do that. So that is
Yeah.
out of the question. But I will say that there I don't know, it's tough. LaMarcus Aldridge can definitely go, but to build a team, I don't think building a team around DeMar DeRozan is a great idea either. And I think
Ooh.
as far as letting those two go, my preference will always be try and get something in return for guys on their last year rather than just let them go. But at the same time, if the Spurs just let these guys go, they can get back a ton of salary cap space, and they can just go out and sign 2, maybe 3 people, depending on how the salary cap looks like in the next couple of years. If it balloons, that those contracts will be worth, the space will be worth more. So I think letting them go is not the worst thing. Just saying, we're not re-signing you. We're done with you. Go find another team.
Yep.
It's not the worst thing.
Thank you
And
for your service. You are
Right.
dismissed.
thanks for your time. It was nice while it lasted. Peace out.
Yep.
But I think of those two guys, I think LaMarcus Aldridge might have a tougher time finding work unless the Portland Trailblazers decide to sign him for nostalgic purposes, and he's willing to accept a smaller role and a smaller salary.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and hear our last voice message. This one is from our good old friend Wesley Perkins. So let's see what Wesley has to say.
Yeah, this is Wesley Perkins. As we've been talking about before, the state of the Spurs is very, very disorienting at the moment. Not a lot of effort for a team that's really, really struggling, and unfortunately seems to be getting worse instead of better. And the intensity is just not there. The urgency is not there. So, to me, the state of the Spurs is one of very big disarray, and I hope that they can turn it around, but maybe some big shakeups are needed to get this thing going right.
Yeah, it's just like we talked about. Everybody wants a trade to happen. But, in closing here, it's probably not going to happen. The Spurs notoriously don't do any trades. So the trade deadline will come and go. And more than likely, nothing's going to change. They're just going to roll with the players that they have currently on the roster. Much to the chagrin, should I say, of Spurs Nation. Because they want change and they're out there being very vocal about it. Unfortunately, it's not the Spurs way. And more than likely, we're going to be given the same old situation. We're going to have the same team out there, and it's going to be very, very difficult to watch, but it is what it is, Ben. So go ahead and let the people know where they can reach you on social media and interact with you.
All right, you want to interact with me, you want to find me, you want to yell at me, you want to throw tomatoes at me on the Twitters, you can find me at _Boomstein for all of my terrible takes and all of my college basketball live tweeting. And I live tweet Spurs games when I'm able to watch. So, if you're into that, I'm here for you. I'm your guy.
And there you go. And you can reach me, Joe Garcia. I'm at Two Shots Podcast, all spelled out, TWOSHOTS Podcast. And it's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Yes, we have a YouTube channel, so make sure you go and follow us and subscribe to our channel. So for Benjamin Bornstein, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Two Shots Podcast. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, Be kind. We're out. Peace.